Welcome to Sword and Shield, the official podcast of the 960th Cyberspace Wing. Join us for insight, knowledge, mentorship, and some fun as we discuss relevant topics in and around our wing. Please understand that the views expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the views of the U.S. Air Force nor the Air Force Reserve, and no endorsement of any particular person or business is ever intended.
Welcome to another episode of the Sword and Shield. I'm Chief Master Sergeant Christopher Howard, 960th COG Senior Enlisted Leader, and today
I'm Samantha Mathison, the 433rd Public Affairs Specialist, but I also function as 960th PA.
Awesome, Sam. Hey, once again, we're going to talk about, some cyber stuff. And we use the quotation marks of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always with the bunny ears, when it comes to these terms and phrases in the cyber world. So some of them can be kind of misleading, especially if you don't really know what it is or what it's referring to exactly. So, Chief, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and segue a little bit into today's subject matter.
Sure.
So, Chief really wanted to geek out, bunny ears, on fishing and whaling. So, are we taking a trip on a boat into the ocean?
So, I want you to think of Jaws, right? So, you have that boat and you're just kind of floating down out in the Gulf, since we're here in Texas. And we've got our poles in the water. That's what we think about fishing, right? In general. So we're fishing, and then we're going to go after sharks or whatever. And when we talk about cyber and we talk about fishing, a little bit different, but kind of the same, right? Mm-hmm. So what they're doing is they're casting out of line, cyber-wise, right, through emails, through text messages, other formats, with the idea that they're laying the bait out, mm-hmm. right? The idea is that they're going to be able to get someone to bite on it. They're going to click on something, and that's going to open up a vulnerability for them to kind of get after and then exploit that information or exploit the systems that they now have access. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember the last time you took the Cyber Awareness Challenge. Actually, it's part of the Cyber Awareness Challenge, right? Yep. Is phishing and understanding what phishing is, and but we're going to dig into it a little bit more today, I think.
Awesome. Sounds fun. So
what is phishing, right?
What is phishing?
What is phishing? Oh.
What is it? Is it, it's spelled differently too.
Right. It's a PH, right? Instead of an F, right?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, right? Mm-hmm. Get the grammatical pieces out. But it's actually a criminal act, mm-hmm. More often than not, right? So what they're trying to do, the whole point of phishing is predominantly email. It's a cyber crime that is really about deception. They're going to send you an email saying, "Hey, you need to update this information." I think that a lot of people have seen those emails, like, "Hey," or even phone calls, right? Mm-hmm. Or text messages. Like one of my favorite phone calls I've gotten recently is the IRS has found that you have owe them money. They're going to shut down all your accounts. And if you don't call us right now mm-hmm. with this information, then you will be in big, big trouble. And then there's been a warrant put out for your arrest, right?
Yeah, I've gotten those too.
So the first time I heard that, I'll be honest, the pucker factor went high, right?
Yeah.
Right? And after it took a couple seconds to listen to it, breathe through it, and mm-hmm. No, not so much, right? But typically, the cyber criminals are looking for things like your date of birth, right? Your social security number, your phone number, credit card details, home address, password information. Like that's another common one, right? Hey, mm-hmm. your password's out of date. Go ahead and click here to update your password. Or hey, your credit card is in default. Click here to look at these things, and they want you to punch in all this stuff, right? The whole idea is that they're trying to gather that information and leverage it for nefarious actions, right? So
yeah. So, Chief, I actually do have a question because I received a phone call recently, and this is a new one on me, but I'm pretty sure this was a phishing attempt. So recently, I got a phone call from this company. It's an investigations company. I'm not going to call out the actual name, but they called me out of the blue, basically saying that there is about $12,000 in an estate claim out on my name, and they're searching for me so that I can get money, right?
Right.
And so, of course, the only reason I answered, honestly, Chief, was because I was expecting a phone call from someone else, and I thought it was this other person, but it wasn't. But anyway, basically they were wanting to confirm my home address and my email. That's what they were wanting. And I was like, no, not going to do that. I'll call you back, And so later on, I ran a Google search on them, and there were some positive reviews for them, but there was also a lot of like, this is a scam. And so because it was so suspicious, I fully intend to not take the bait and answer that. But that is a new thing that I heard recently. Usually people are wanting through email is like a prince from another country in Africa.
That's the infamous one, right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And if you help them by, temporarily, donating about $6,000 or whatever amount to them, you'll be made rich and famous. And,
right.
Yeah. But
no, I mean, these things are effective, right? According to the FBI, about $57 million just in the past year was lost to phishing schemes, right?
Wow.
And I think that, your example brings up some key points there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a tagline. Think of it from a marketing perspective almost. I'm going to give you an offer that you just can't refuse, right? Okay, you've got money coming. So you're excited, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is, let's see if we can get you to drop your guard for a second or enact an emotional moment like fear, excitement, or something like that, right? Because, the primal brain kicks in.
Yeah.
And, like, and the excitement and adrenaline comes up, and some of the cognitive reasoning and logic pieces start to kind of come down, right? Yeah. So then you want to act fast. You want to get after this thing. Okay, so I got money coming. All right. So, okay, let's go ahead and send this information off, right? And then you end up, well, we need your bank account so we can get this money to you right away. Oh, here's my bank account, right? You're like, yeah. I'm gonna make $12,000. Woo! Next thing you know, the $5,000 that you had in your account gone.
Yeah, and you're like, what the heck?
What the heck, right? and then there's the buyer's remorse, right? I can't believe I fell into it, right? But they're predators, right? And they're out there trying to find that stuff. And the thing is that a lot of times they'll even use letterheads that look similar, right? Some of the key things to look out for there is this offer too good to be true? If it's too good to be true, take a pause, right? Yep. Okay, if this is really true, if I don't get to it this second, it's probably still going to be there, right?
Yep.
It's like I get all these text messages. You've won $100 gift card for this. You've won $100. All we need is your account information, or we need your address, or something like that.
Click this link,
right? So again, they're trying to get that to you. But ultimately, take a step back, look at it. Look at the letterhead. Is it look legit? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it don't. You're not an expert, right?
Yeah.
But all the things to look at, right? Does this seem logical? Right? Are there misspellings?
Yeah.
Misspelling's one of the key indicators there, right? And then when I read it, is it feel like a real letter, right? Because you'll notice, like, especially in the initial read, right, the brain will pick up all little things and just make corrections, especially as you're getting that emotional sense, like, okay, wow, I just want, and then you go back and you find out, okay, they spelled 1,000 wrong, right? So I'm getting 12, thousands. Thousands, right?
We all want $12,000,
right? Or the link doesn't coincide with the company name, right? Little things that go on there, and then so the other piece is what kind of information are they asking? How do they want me to contact them? Why are they not contacting me directly? If they've found my email address, right? If I really, it's an estate and it's my money, how did they find my email address and not necessarily send me a certified letter? Yeah. Right. Or why didn't I get even with a phone call, you got to be wary, but there'd be a couple different ways they would probably try to contact you. Right. And again, that whole thing about, is this too good to be true? Right. You have to definitely check that out. Right.
Yeah, so it's always good to go into any kind of phone call or notification of any kind with a little bit of cynicism and suspicion, because, you definitely don't want to lose your identity,
right,
or money specifically.
Right. No, and going to some of those key indicators, right? You'll see things like Amazon customer support, your bank or a bank, right? PayPal, our used quite often.
Your car's extended warranty.
Your car's extended warranty, right? And those little details are in the URL, right? Which is that link, like I talked about before, or the way the attachment sits and little things like that. And there's multiple types of phishing examples, right? So there's regular phishing email, then there's spear phishing, right? Spear phishing is a much more targeted phishing email attack, and it's collected about the victim or the victim's employer. So they're looking for specific information and specific targets, right? And they're relying on these emails that really trick you to get you into that, or take you to a popular site or try to draw you in that way and collect that data.
Yeah. So what exactly does that look like? So spear phishing versus just regular phishing. You said it's more targeted. So what does that mean exactly?
Spear phishing is usually using spoofing, right? So it looks very legit, and it just depends on what the end goal is, right? More often than not, it's always about money. Right.
Yeah.
Because I think we've talked about it during our previous podcast about, the cyber domain and the cost of entry. Right.
Yeah.
Cost of entry is really low. So that allows for more criminals to be in the domain, and hence why they're a lot more active. And that's why you end up having statistically a higher number of criminal acts than, let's say, foreign actors and such. That doesn't eliminate them from that example, but it is predominantly meant to get information about you so that they can leverage your identity, they can leverage your bank account, they can leverage something about you to make money off of you. So you are usually the target, or another effort is to have access to something you have access to, right? As an employee, then they're looking at making money from that company, right?
So you mentioned most of the time it's money. Like, what is another goal that these hackers or bad people could have?
Another way of doing this is fake websites, right? So again, it's just collecting more information. The idea is to leverage that information or that access, again, for nefarious actions, right? So corporate espionage is a very big industry as well, on top of the money. But again, always comes down to the dollars, right?
It's all about that money.
So let's just say that we were working at a pharmaceutical company at the beginning of COVID, right? And we happen to be a couple of admin working in this company, and there's rumors that we're making progress on something. So maybe we have access to information that shows, okay, well, who did they just hire? What supplies are they getting, right? So when we're making those compounds, what are some of the things, right? I might be a loggy, but I have access to all the orders, right? So now they know what chemicals we're buying to then produce this product, or maybe they know what kind of engineers we're hiring to make a product. Maybe all of this information can be co-located and leveraged against us, right? Or an organization. From a military perspective, that's the same way, right? So if we get hooked into spear phishing or a phishing expedition and they can get information in our roles, right? They might know that we're changing our posture. It's OPSEC, right?
Yeah.
So being able to co-locate that information and then use it against another organization or profit from it.
So would you say the tactics are slightly different when they're phishing for information versus just money?
I think when we talk about it comes down to the actor, right? So the one that's actually perpetrating the phishing event or any of these other events, it's the level of sophistication will improve, right? So when we're doing a phishing expedition at the lower level, we're talking probably, not always, but more often, less sophisticated criminals, right? They're casting a wide net. They're pushing on a lot of things, right? So how some of this works, right? So how do they get my information? I think we've talked in other podcast, or we will definitely in future discuss how does our information get co-located and then it gets sold. I don't know that a lot of people know this, but all this information that's gathered from you when you enter contests, when you enter websites, when you sign up for newsletters, all this stuff goes into information. Well, they bucket that together and they sell it. There's actually companies out there that sells what they call universes or sub-universes or portions of a global list based on certain details. So when you put in for information in there, I, as a person, as a company, I can actually buy a list of X number of people that are interested in, let's just say, deep sea fishing, right?
Okay.
And then I get all the information. I'll get their phone number. I'll get their email address. I'll get their name, and I'll get some details that they like phishing. So now I have a list of individuals that I can send out a text to, an email to, or a letter to saying, hey, I heard you like deep sea fishing, and I have a great deal on a fishing expedition for you today. Click here today and save $150 and catch the biggest marlin of your life, right? And then now I've got them, right? Now, with that said, maybe I get them to sign up for something else, or maybe I get them to click on something, or hey, you were on one of our company partners' boats recently, and you left something behind. Click on here to get your information. Please, your credit card, validate your credit card information. Now I can click that. Now I have their credit card. I can use it. They already know they have disposable income, right? These are things I can use. So I'm kind of sending out a very wide net based on this. And you can do that with anything. You can do that for veterans. You can do kitten lovers. You can do, anybody that likes to do crocheting, whatever it may be, any subsect of information, you can buy that and then leverage it for these types of attacks. And it's not all that expensive, especially if you get a couple of wins on this thing.
Yeah, so not only do we have to be wary of phishing attempts, but we also have to be wary about what we're signing up for online and the internet in general is what I'm hearing. And that's pretty sneaky, especially the part about, hey, you left something behind, and so that kind of leaves the person potential victim.
Plus, I'm an evil human being, so I think
you're not that evil, Chief. You just act like it.
Right. Like $1 million, right?
But yeah, I mean, that is pretty sneaky, so maybe you are actually missing something, and so you're thinking, oh, maybe that's where I left it because this email, text, whatever, phone call person is saying that you left something and it just so happens to be this thing you've been missing for a while. So unfortunate confluence of events can potentially lead you down a bad path where you lose your identity, you lose all your money, and next thing you know, you're suffering. Right.
No, with you. And kind of digging deeper into that, what other reasons why we do it other than just making money, installing malware, right? Then they can do a couple different things, right? And then there's also slave botting. Right. Basically, what they do is like if you click on this, you give them access. They have access. They have a backdoor to your machine, and then what they can do through some coding and some malware is actually they can slave your machine and leverage your internet connection and your computing power to get after other problems, and then even leverage it as part of a larger network, for computing purposes and for routing purposes. So to hide things inside of a bigger network.
That's pretty crazy.
Yes.
So how would a person know if their machine has become a slave, as you put it, to this?
To be honest with you, you got to run for the common individual. It's really about keeping your antivirus up to date, right? So every time one of these things happens, or there's a large database that gets shared amongst companies that share what's going on to a certain degree. And anytime there's a known threat that's identified, that gets updated. So those software updates, that antivirus update is then scrubbing, looking for the keywords, the signatures there to find out if that's information's on your computer or your device, and then being able to isolate it and remove it, right? Or then also to prevent it, right? So your antivirus, everything comes through that, and it's kind of a net to catch all the crap that comes through, right? Yeah. We'll call it the crap filter for now, right?
The crap filter. Right. So what I'm hearing is make sure your crap filter is up to date.
Up to date, right. It's not going to catch everything, and then even based on the fact that there's opportunities for you to bypass that through some of these skill sets, but ultimately you got to do what you need to do, right? You need to be cautious about what you share. You need to be cautious about your passwords. You need to be cautious what you download, right? Understand who's sending it to you. Did you ask for this information or not, right? Being able to just, one of the examples I have in my notes is a funny cat video could hide malware, right? So download this, right? GIFs, PDFs, ebooks, all these different things that we normally consume are also potential threats to your digital environment.
Yeah, one of the things I often see, at least in Facebook land, because I'm always on there, is what we call clickbait. And it's basically like these highly either controversial or just engaging titles, topics, but you have to click a link, you have to click on a video, you have to click on something in order to open it up. And usually it is chock full of ads and it takes forever for these articles to get to the point, and so a lot of times I'll see comments on these clickbait articles, of people basically saying like, yeah, it takes 1,000,000 years to get to the bottom because, and I'm over exaggerating. It doesn't take years, but it takes a good second or two to get to the point. And they do this on purpose because they want to waste your time. They want you to click on these links, and they want you to look at all these ads. I mean, that's ultimately the point, is to make money for these ads and articles. So, yeah, people will often comment on them, and I call them the Facebook heroes because they'll just basically say, hey, this is ultimately the point, or they'll screenshot it, and put what the point is, just to save the rest of us normies from, having to dig through to get to the point of these things. And so that's something else to keep an eye out on, at least on Facebook in general, is these clickbait articles. They're usually, and I'm not going to lie, I've been sucked into them too, Chief, on occasion. I'm like, what happened to this poor little girl who may have been abducted, stuff like that. Or, it's amazing what happened to this cat, and how did they survive? And, it's often these very engaging topics,
right?
And it sucks you in, and it's very easy because, again, it's that knee-jerk reaction you were talking about, Chief. You just want to click on it and find out, because we're all naturally curious. We want to know, so that's something else to keep an eye out for when it comes to phishing, because that's also a way to draw people in.
And what part of that is called malvertising, right? That's a technique that uses online advertisements and pop-ups to compel people to click on them, right? And then that's what allows malware to get installed or collect additional information about you. Another one we haven't talked about is the man-in-the-middle attack. So what that is it's a sophisticated email attack where they actually have two different persons in the same organization or that are connected somehow email. And they start emailing them as the other person to collect information. So now you have a trusted person and another trusted person, and they think they're sharing information between the two. So that one is very sophisticated. It's a high-end type of version, but things to look at. So, with that said, is how do I get around that one, right? So this is a trusted person. Or are they asking for information they wouldn't normally ask for, right? So like if you sent me an email and said, hey, Chief, I need your social. Why do you need my social?
Yeah,
right?
That's a good question. Right? Why would I need your social?
Or, hey, I know that we haven't talked about this in the past. What's going on with Operation, Snuffy McGee? Well, what do you know about Snuffy McGee? Right?
Yeah. How did you even know about that?
Yeah, little things, right? Or, hey, I was wondering if you could tell me about what's going on with, latest troop movements or whatever at our level, right? What if we were going back to, working a pharmaceutical company? Hey, do you have the codes or the access to the database for all of this, for all of the ordering? Well, you don't do orders, you do something else. So, right.
Yeah.
Little things, right?
Yeah. It depends on the job function. So that's something else. I think you bring up a good point, Chief, that you got to keep an eye out for insider threats too, as well. And that's something that you can keep an eye out on when it comes to your coworkers and people you actually know. Like, it's always good to have that healthy cynicism and think about, well, why are they asking these questions? And it doesn't hurt to ask the question. Well, what do you need to know this for?
Right.
It's always good to ask.
Why is that person downloading that disk and walking out of the skip with it? Right. Right. We won't name any names.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, you see that mysterious unlabeled disk laying around somewhere.
Right. Oh, let's put it in my computer. Let's hit it.
Yeah. Let's see what this is.
But, there's a lot of resources out there of how social engineering kind of works and how they're looking at this and then what they're doing to your accounts and your information. Yeah. And actually the Federal Trade Commission, if you go to, consumerftc.gov, they actually have a list of things to use to protect yourself from phishing. And what they identify is, protect your computer by using security software. Again, your crap filter, right?
Yeah.
AKA antivirus, right? Or the security settings. And then protect your mobile phone by setting software to update automatically, making sure that you're up to date, because every time you update your Apple phone, it isn't just because they want to, jack your phone and do other things. Sometimes, sure, it feels like that, right? But those updates are how they update the software to look for those signatures and prevent you from getting jacked.
Yeah, and the timing may be bad. Like, I've dealt with that frustration myself, honestly. It's like always first thing in the morning. It takes forever for my computer to finally get to the point where I can use it. However, objectively, I do know what's happening. It's software being updated. The patches are coming through. It's doing that scrub that supposedly is supposed to happen overnight, whenever you leave for the day. But let's face it, it doesn't always happen that way. Usually it's when you try to log in and the computer's like, let me do all these scrubs right now and security checks. And you're just sitting there waiting what feels like a million years. But really, in reality, it's only, 5, 10, on a really bad day, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's why they do tend, like, I have a lot of Apple products. I know, bad or good. I know where you sit on the fence, right? And the updates happen at night, right?
Yeah.
When you're asleep, when you're not normally using it. So you don't necessarily see it, and it keeps you a little bit safer. But another way to protect your accounts is by using multi-factor authentication. So what is that, right? So that's usually... you see a lot of your banking applications now require you to sign in, log in, and then they're going to send you an activation code or one-time use code, which then gets sent to another device that you then bring in and plug it in, right? So USA, not plugging them by any means. It just happens. They send that stuff to me all the time. I mean, I have it for a number of different other websites that I leverage and use, right, to get the multi-authentication. So it's another sense of security, right? It's another way to prove you are the trusted member of that account, right? So, and
it can be frustrating, especially when every account you're trying to get into does that, and you have to move quickly. It does take time, and you're like, oh man, I got to do this again. Like, come on,
right?
However, it's to protect your information and your stuff, so then you are safe. Because we all like our money. We all like our identities.
I'm not Scrooge McDuck, but I love my cash. Right?
Yeah, we all got bills to pay, you know. We got kids to take care of, pets, vehicles, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, I mean, in the short term, it is frustrating, but in the long term, it's good, it's healthy, and just got to keep that in mind.
Well, it's the environment, right? So no one's really happy that the environment's changed to the point where in the digital environment that we have, that trust is so thin, right?
Yeah.
There is a natural tendency for us to want to trust information that's given to us, or trust that everything's on the up and up, and people prey on that.
Yep.
And these systems are meant to help prevent that and then protect you from yourself, right? Because you're being manipulated. One other way to protect yourself too is, back up your data. So like if you have anything that's important to you, especially on your computer or your phone, constantly back that up on a regular basis. In case you do get hit, then if you lose part of it, you don't lose all of it. And then also password protect files, password protect your information, keep it safe wherever you can, type of stuff. Just be safety aware and security minded to kind of get out of there. So if things seem too legit, obviously you got to be wary of it.
Yep. Yeah, Chief. Well, we're running short on time, so I know we didn't get to everything you wanted to talk about, so we'll have to just save it for a future podcast.
That's okay. Right. Definitely.
Plenty of things to talk about in the cyber world, of course, especially for layman's people like me, and then, of course, for our cyber experts that are out there. So, Chief, I will let you say, have the last minute words on this episode.
No, I appreciate that, Sam. Thank you. Thank you for, giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I just have a little bit of knowledge, and this is really meant to share a little bit of it and make people aware. What the intent here is to share a little bit about what to look for, be wary of it, and then challenge everybody to critically think these things through. and take a deep breath when looking through these things. Don't get caught up, because your information is vital. Your digital environment's vital. And then from an organization perspective, we also don't want to make you vulnerable to other attacks or make the organization vulnerable to attacks. I am confident that most of individuals listening are well aware of these things. But it's always good to refresh the conversation and then keep up to date with what's going on. So to all of our gladiators out there, be vigilant, be, again, safety minded and security aware, and then go ahead and, get after it. Right. So with that said, I have to close it out with, all right, gladiators, get out there and stab your enemies in the face through cyberspace.